Hello inner Vikings, welcome to my channel Sign of Horses, and it is time for another DIY Floki. As you can see, I made this hat, I crafted this hat, and it gave me so much pleasure to do it. It was quite a journey from thinking I would create the most marvelous thing ever to thinking it would completely fail and I couldn't get the right red dye, and then rescuing the project and just, finishing it as is with all its flaws. And it was the process of just doing something with your hands and creating something that made me incredibly happy. And now I have to be honest that wearing this hat makes me happy as well. So I hooked up with one of the biggest equestrian crafters on the channel, which is Budget Equestrain. I got in touch with Lisa and I said, Lisa, I have this great idea. What if you do a craft and I do a craft, and then we can share it on our channel and just go from the same basic material and then make something completely different. And she was really enthusiastic. So that is what we did, and this is what you're watching right now. Lisa and I both agreed that we're going to make something with an embroidery hoop. And I'm going to link her video in the eye in the corner and in the description box below so you can find out what she made. If you're interested in how I made this, stay tuned because we are going to get started. We are making a treat bag from an embroidery hoop. Yes, we are. It's easy access to the treats for your horse, and it just looks nice on your belt. So what you're going to need are embroidery hoops, some fabric, and your basic scissors, measuring tape, thread, needles, that kind of thing. We start with measuring the inside hoop and make sure your hand fits through this hoop. In my case, it's 34 centimeters. Then I get some nice wool fabric because I like wool, and I went for the color red because it's nice and bright. I measured out a little bit more than 34 centimeters because we're going to need seam allowance. And then I fold the bit of fabric over and I cut along the line, and then I put my hand on the fabric to measure out how big the bag is going to be, and make sure you don't cut in your fingers when you do this kind of thing, so be careful. I'm a professional seamstress, so yeah, my fingers are all there. Then you sew along the two bits that you've just cut, and when your bag is sewn, you simply fold over the edge on the inside hoop, and then you slip over the outside hoop. This is a bit of a job. I make it look easy in this video, but it's a bit of a job. I connected a little clasp on the top, and I decorated it with a horse and a bell. And this is such an easy project because it's already finished. Look, you can give your horse a treat. Simple as that. I made another project. I couldn't resist to use an embroidery hoop for some actual embroidering. This time I used a bigger hoop and my sketchbook. I found a drawing that perfectly fits the hoop, and I traced it on a piece of paper. And now I need to trace that on the fabric that I put in the embroidery hoop. I went for a bit of sheer fabric. You can even use a pantyhose or some tulle if you want. I flip over the design to make sure that I have it the right way round when I sew it on the front of the hoop. And I trace it with a simple pencil. I tried to use a hard pencil, the hardest one I could find, like an H pencil, so it doesn't show. I went for some simple black embroidery thread, and I have 3 strands here, so I split it in half. And you can use the 6 strands if you want a thicker line. So you do what you think. Now the stitch I'm using, I have no idea what it's called. Is it a running back stitch? I really don't know. I just poke the needle halfway in the previous stitch and then I make another stitch. It's actually quite simple and it looks nice on the front. Sometimes I had to back trace my line to get back to the outline because I don't want the thread to show on the back side because it's a sheer fabric so you can see through it. But once you're back on track, then you can just keep on going and tracing that pencil line that you made. Simple as that. Now I have prepared a different embroidery hoop and a different piece of fabric to show you how I attach the horsehair, because that is really hard to show with the real thing. So I got a different type of thread, and you have to imagine that these are several strands of horsehair, and then the real challenge is to thread the horsehair into the needle. So try to get in as many strands of horsehair as you can through the needle, the hole of the needle, or maybe get a needle with a slightly larger hole, and then thread it through like this. What we want is to end up with two dangly bits of horsehair looped through the fabric right there. But horsehair is notoriously difficult to knot, so we can't just loop it through like that. Now I found a way to do it, and I'm going to show you right here. And I'm going to show you, and I'm going to demonstrate right now. We start on the right side of the work and then poke the needle through where we want the horsehair tail to be. So that's the simplest step one. Just poke through and then kind of determine how long you want it to be. Next step, it's also pretty simple. You poke it back upwards to the right side of the fabric, just a few strands away from the original hole where you went in. So then you're out on the other side. Now you can see that the strands of horsehair won't stick to the fabric like magic. We'll have to make a little knot, and to just knot these two right on top of the fabric won't work with horsehair because it's so slippery and it will poke out all the way in all directions. It just doesn't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a little loop by going over the other strand. So here's the first strand, here's the second strand attached to the needle. So I'm going to go over and then poke a hole somewhere near the other side of this strand. Go back to the back of the work. And you can see already that this creates a bit of a loop here. And what we want is the other strand, which is now on the back side of the work, that we want the other strand to go through, up and through this loop. So I'm going to take my needle and then poke up against somewhere in between the two strands. Back about there, and on the bottom side through that loop that we just made. I hope you understand this because it's very difficult to explain. And then if you pull this, now you can see that we have the two horsehair strands here and the loop there. So if you finish and you pull it, there's a little knot there that will definitely stay. And you make several of these knots with the strand of hair and you'll end up with a horsehair tail. Ta-da! Make sure you stretch the fabric nice and taut before you cut it off because it's the only chance you get. Trim the edges and then you're left over with a lovely keepsake with your horse's hair on it. How is that for some wall hanging art? Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Release that inner Viking. Go watch Lisa's vlog. Bye!